The Golden Verses of Pythagoras. The Golden Verses, Aurea Carmina in Latin, Chrysa Ep in Greek, are a collection of 71 moral and philosophical precepts attributed to Pythagoras of Samos, c. 570 to 495 BCE, the legendary mathematician, philosopher, mystic, and founder of one of antiquity's most influential spiritual communities. Though almost certainly compiled by later Pythagoreans rather than written by Pythagoras himself, probably between the 4th and 2nd centuries BCE, they represent the most complete surviving statement of Pythagorean ethical and spiritual teaching. Studied for over 2,000 years, commented on by Neoplatonists like Hierocles of Alexandria, translated and revered throughout the Renaissance and early modern period, the Golden Verses are among the most condensed and carefully organized guides to the philosophical life ever written. This rendering gives each verse its plain meaning and then draws out the deeper teaching. A guide before beginning. The Golden Verses are short, 71 hexameter lines, but they carry the weight of an entire way of life. They are not a philosophical treatise. They are a manual, a checklist, a set of daily practices for the person who has decided to live, in the fullest possible sense, a human life oriented toward wisdom and the divine. The verses divide naturally into several sections. The first section, verses 1 to 21, your duties and relationships, to the gods, to your parents, to your friends, to all human beings. The social and ethical foundation. The second section, verses 22 to 51, the discipline of the inner life, controlling desire, mastering anger, choosing your companions wisely, examining your conscience each evening, exercising proper judgment, and living simply. The third section, verses 52 to 71, the rewards of the philosophical life and the nature of the soul, what happens when you have genuinely done this work, what you become, what you can see, what you are ultimately destined for. The Pythagorean way of life was not merely philosophical in the modern academic sense. It was a total way of being involving dietary practice, the famous Pythagorean vegetarianism, mathematical and musical study, communal living, specific ritual observances, silence, memory exercises, and a daily examination of conscience. The Golden Verses are the ethical core of this way of life, the summary of what it means to live as a Pythagorean. The single deepest conviction underlying all the verses is this: the human soul is divine in origin, temporarily housed in a body, capable of returning to the divine, and every choice you make in your daily life either moves you closer to that return or further from it. Nothing is trivial. Everything matters. The Golden Verses, with commentary. Part 1. Your duties in the world. Verses 1 to 21. Verse 1. First honor the immortal gods in the order and manner prescribed by law. Plain, honor the divine first. Do this in the proper way, meaning in accordance with genuine piety, real reverence, and the traditions of your community. Not mechanically, not for show, but with actual attention and actual respect. The deeper teaching. The Golden Verses do not begin with a philosophical argument about the existence of gods. They begin with a practice: honor them. This is characteristic of the entire document. It is not primarily speculative but practical. The first obligation is not to understand the divine but to orient yourself toward it. In the order and manner prescribed does not mean blind conformity to religious convention. Later Pythagorean commentators, especially Hierocles, explain this as meaning, honor the divine in a way consistent with what the divine actually is, with genuine piety, not superstition, with understanding, not mere ritual compliance. The prescribed manner is what reason and tradition together determine to be fitting for the infinite. The immortal gods come first. Before your family, before your community, before yourself. This is not tyranny, it is orientation. When the divine is genuinely first, everything else falls into its proper place. When the divine is not first, when the self is first, or comfort is first, or fear is first, everything else becomes distorted. Verse 2. Then honor the oath, and next honor the illustrious heroes. Plain, respect the sacred commitments you make. And honor those great human beings of the past who achieved wisdom and virtue, who became, by their excellence, something more than ordinary. The deeper teaching. The oath is sacred because it invokes the divine as witness. To break an oath is not merely to break a social contract, it is to falsify your relationship with the divine. It is to call on heaven as a witness to a lie. This is, for the Pythagoreans, one of the gravest possible acts. The illustrious heroes are the great souls of the past, those who, through genuine virtue and wisdom, have been elevated in the cosmic order. In the Pythagorean worldview, souls that achieve genuine wisdom in this life are not simply reincarnated again, they are elevated to a higher mode of existence, closer to the divine. The heroes are these elevated souls, now occupying an intermediate place between ordinary humanity and the gods. They can be called on. They can help. Verse 3. Then honor the spirits of the underworld, performing the rites ordained by law. Plain, respect the dead. Perform the proper rites for them. Acknowledge the world of those who have passed from this life. The deeper teaching. The Pythagorean cosmos is fully populated, there are no empty spaces. The underworld spirits are the souls of the dead in various conditions of their journey. To honor them with proper rites is not superstition, it is the acknowledgement of a full and ordered cosmos in which the living and the dead are part of one continuous reality. It also acknowledges debt. You came from those who came before you. Their lives made your life possible. The proper rites are a form of gratitude and connection. Verse 4. Honor your parents and your nearest relatives. Plain, respect your parents. Care for your family. The deeper teaching. This verse is brief because its content is basic, and yet the Pythagoreans took it with absolute seriousness. Pythagoras himself was known for his deep respect for parents, and Pythagorean communities were careful to maintain genuine family bonds rather than dissolving them in the name of philosophy. The order of the first 4 verses is important: gods, oaths, heroes, spirits of the dead, parents, relatives. There is a hierarchy here, the divine first, then the human in descending order of how directly they connect you to the divine order. Parents are close to the divine because they are the immediate cause of your existence. To honor them is to honor the chain of being through which you arrived in the world. Verse 5. Among all others, make as your friend the one who excels in virtue. Plain, choose your close friends carefully. Seek out the people who are genuinely trying to be good and befriend them above all others. The deeper teaching. This is one of the most practically important verses in the entire collection. You become like the people you spend the most time with. This is not a modern psychological observation, it is a universal truth that every wisdom tradition has recognized. Friendship, for the Pythagoreans, is not merely pleasant company. Genuine friendship is a spiritual practice, 2 people helping each other become better, holding each other to their highest aspirations, calling each other back when they drift. The friend who excels in virtue is the one who makes your own virtue more possible. The phrase among all others is significant. It does not say make only virtuous people your friends. Be kind to everyone. But be careful about who you make your intimate companions, because that intimacy shapes who you become. Verse 6. Yield to his gentle admonishments and learn from his righteous example. Plain, when this virtuous friend corrects you, gently, genuinely listen. Don't get defensive. Let their good example teach you. The deeper teaching. The person who cannot receive correction cannot grow. One of the surest signs of genuine character is the ability to hear criticism without becoming angry, defensive, or resentful, especially when the criticism is true and the critic is someone who genuinely cares about you. The emphasis on gentle admonishment is important. The Pythagoreans did not value harsh criticism or aggressive correction. True teaching and true friendship work with gentleness, not because the truth is softened, but because gentleness is what actually reaches the heart. The person who attacks you into changing may produce compliance, but not genuine transformation. Verse 7. Never quarrel with a friend over something trivial, and do not reject them for small faults, for necessity dwells as close as possible to the friend. Plain, don't let petty disagreements destroy real friendships. Don't throw away a genuine bond over minor failures. True friendship is precious and rare. The deeper teaching. The phrase necessity dwells as close as possible to the friend is one of the most discussed lines in ancient commentary on the Golden Verses. One interpretation, necessity, meaning the network of fate and obligation, binds genuine friends together, and to break a true friendship is to go against something deep in the order of things. Another interpretation, every genuine relationship involves friction, difficulty, moments of failure. This is not a flaw, it is the nature of genuine intimacy. The person who expects a real friendship to be frictionless has confused friendship with something shallower. The practical wisdom is straightforward and profound. Protect real friendships. They are rarer and more valuable than almost any other thing in life. People who allow themselves to lose genuine friends over trivialities are making one of the great mistakes available to human beings. Verse 8. Bear what you can, as close to power as possible, and reflect before you speak or act. Plain, endure what life brings you as much as you can. Think before you speak. Think before you act. The deeper teaching. As close to power as possible, meaning as close to your actual capacity, stretching it rather than shrinking from it. Don't endure lazily or passively. Endure with all the strength you have. Push the boundaries of what you can bear. But the second half of this verse is just as important. Think first. The untrained mind acts from impulse and speaks from emotion. The disciplined mind pauses, considers, and then chooses. This pause, between stimulus and response, is one of the most important spaces in human life. In that space is freedom. Verse 9. Let this be what you understand. Suffering comes from your desires. This is the suffering that is proper to mortals. Plain, understand this clearly. Most of what you suffer comes from wanting what you don't have, or fearing to lose what you do have. This is the specific human form of suffering. The deeper teaching. This verse is the Pythagorean version of a teaching found in every major wisdom tradition. The root of suffering is desire, not desire in the sense of all wanting, but desire in the sense of clinging, craving, the desperate need for things to be other than they are. The phrase proper to mortals is not condescending, it is a recognition that this form of suffering is specifically connected to our embodied, finite condition. We are creatures who want things. We are creatures who lose things. We are creatures who die. The suffering that comes from these realities is, in a sense, structural, it is built into what we are. But the recognition of this is the beginning of working with it. Once you understand that your suffering comes from your desires rather than from external circumstances, you have identified the actual location of the problem and therefore the actual location of its possible resolution. Verse 10. Accustom yourself to overcome and triumph over these things. First your belly, then sleep, then lechery, then anger. Plain, train yourself to master your basic appetites. Control your eating. Control your sleep. Control your sexual desire. Control your anger. These are the 4 basic obstacles to the philosophical life. The deeper teaching. The order here is important and has been much discussed. The belly comes first, food is the most basic appetite, and the practice of controlling it, the Pythagorean abstinence from certain foods, their careful regulation of diet, was the foundation of all other disciplines. If you cannot govern what you eat, you cannot govern anything more subtle. Sleep comes second, not because sleep is bad, but because the person who sleeps whenever they feel like it, who is governed by the desire for rest, has given over a large portion of their life to unconsciousness. The Pythagoreans regulated their sleep carefully, including the morning practice of reviewing the previous day's events before rising. Lechery, the disordering of sexual desire, comes third. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. Uncontrolled, it distorts judgment, destroys relationships, and consumes enormous amounts of attention and energy. The Pythagoreans were not anti-sexual, they recognized sexuality as a genuine good, but they insisted it be brought under rational governance. Anger comes fourth. Anger is perhaps the most socially destructive of the 4 because it expresses itself outwardly. It damages not just yourself but your relationships, your community, your reputation, and your character. The person who is mastered by anger is a danger to everyone around them. These 4, belly, sleep, desire, anger, are the 4 walls of the prison of the unexamined life. Learning to govern them is the beginning of genuine freedom.